Okay, so this is where I introduce you to the sewing machine, its parts, function, use, and a little maintenance. So, like we all know, Nigerians, I mean, this is what most of us have at home. It's the domestic butterfly straight stitching sewing machine. We all have it. Our grandmas have it, our mothers have it, right? This machine is very reliable. It doesn't depend on electricity, except of course you have an electric motor attached. It has a paddle which we use to sew. So I'm going to introduce you to the basic parts of this machine. So this is the flywheel or the balance wheel, right? It looks like a wheel, a typical wheel, as you know. This is the flywheel or the balance wheel. This is what sets the machine in motion. So to start sewing, we turn the balance wheel or the flywheel towards us, or towards me, as you can see me do. Not the opposite direction, but towards me, like so. Right? And while doing this, please calm down. While doing this, turning the flywheel or the balance wheel, you can see that the paddle is moving up and down, up and down. This is what sets the machine in motion. So if I want to continue paddling, I will turn the flywheel this way, then I will place my feet on the paddle, and I will just continue with the motion like that. So I've stopped paddling. Once again, I'm turning the flywheel without paddling. I just keep turning the flywheel towards me, and the paddle will be going up and down. I will just continue with the up and down motion of the paddle like that. Now, you can't just sit on this machine and start paddling. No, the machine will not fly. If you want the machine to work properly, if you sit on the machine, you first begin by turning the flywheel towards you. Observe the movement of the paddle as it goes up and down, and just continue the movement by paddling like that. All right. So next we have is a spool pin. This machine is very old. This machine is close to 30 years old now. So the spool pin that originally came with the machine is off, but I just made do with this plastic, right? So the spool pin is what holds the thread in place, right, while we're sewing. So next we have is a little notch here, which is the thread guide. This is the thread guide. So when the thread is coming from the spool pin, it moves into the thread guide, as you can see. It moves into the thread guide and down to the tension disc. This is the tension disc. There is a disc, I don't know, concave or convex plates together here, as you can see. Yeah. So that's where the thread passes through. Right? You pass your thread in through the disc like that, and then pull the thread upwards to make sure it's properly inserted in between the discs. So the tension disc is what creates the tension, right? Holds the thread tightly, creating tension while we sew. Okay. From there is the take-up lever. This is the take-up lever. While sewing, the take-up lever goes up and down, as you can see. This up and down movement is what ensures the flow of thread to the needle. So from the tension disc, the thread goes into the take-up lever, right? So that the up and down movement of the take-up lever is what ensures the flow of thread. Next, we have another thread guide. There's a thread guide here. It's like a little hook, right? It's like a little hook, but the opening of the hook is towards the inside of the machine. So to pass your thread into this thread guide, you hold your thread like this, and then you pass it to the hook like that. So you can see the thread in the thread guide. And then finally, we'll thread the needle. This is our needle, and that's the eye of the needle. So we are going to pass the thread through the eye of the needle. So regardless of the kind of sewing machine you use, your thread will always be flowing from the tension disc to the take-up lever and into the eye of the needle. Every other thing would be a thread guide. All straight sewing machines, the thread flows from the tension disc to the take-up lever down to the eye of the needle. All other things would just serve as thread guides. They don't have a major role they are playing. So these three parts are the major parts. The tension disc, take-up lever, and the needle are the major parts that your thread must flow through, right? Okay, so there you have it. Now, this is the presser foot lift. This is the presser foot lift. The up and down movement of the presser foot lift is what makes the foot, this is the foot of the machine, is what makes the foot go up and come down. Now, the foot of the machine is important because it holds the fabric in place while we are sewing. It holds the fabric in place while we are sewing. Now, underneath the presser foot, come close please. Underneath the presser foot is a track here, which is called the feed dog. This is the feed dog. The track that we can see here is the feed dog. Now, the feed dog is what moves the fabric forward or backward, as the case may be, while we are sewing. You realize that while sewing, your fabric keeps moving. This is what moves it, the feed dog. While the presser foot holds the fabric firm in place, while the feed dog does the movement, right? This is the needle clamp. This right here is the needle clamp. This is what holds the needle. So right now I've taken out the needle, as you can see, and then I'll insert it back, and using the needle clamp, I would hold the needle firmly back in place. This is the needle plate. This plate here, where the needle passes into while sewing, is called the needle plate. Right? So this is the needle plate. While this other side is the slide plate. It slides open and close, revealing the shuttle chamber. So in here is the shuttle chamber. So the slide plate gives you access into the shuttle chamber and also closes up the shuttle chamber while sewing. So this is the shuttle chamber, as I was saying. So the slide plate, this is the slide plate, slides open and close, reveals or gives you access to the shuttle chamber. So in the shuttle chamber, we have a shuttle. This is the shuttle. And we have a bobbin. So a bobbin is filled with thread, like you can see. Later on, I'll show you how to fill the bobbin with thread. And then you put the bobbin into the shuttle, just like so. Then you come to the side of the shuttle where you can see a little aperture there. So you take your thread, pass it through the aperture, and pull forward till it comes out in the hole here. Let me take that again. You take your bobbin, put it into the shuttle, look for the little aperture here, pass your thread through the aperture and pull your thread forward till it comes out at the hole there. Now, to put the shuttle into the shuttle chamber, you see this little horn here. There's a little horn here for the shuttle. You would make sure this horn aligns with that notch, with this notch up there. So just take a look. I'll put my shuttle into the shuttle chamber, and I'll make sure the horn here enters into that hole there, and I'll push. When once you hear the "pack" sound, the shuttle is firmly in place in the shuttle chamber. Okay, so you nicely close the chamber using the slide plate. You thread the eye of your needle. Now, we have to pick the thread from the bobbin at the bottom in the shuttle chamber. To do that, we'll pass our needle in through the needle plate, and you can see the thread in the shuttle chamber is red. It has come out like a loop, like that. So you pull it out like that, and then lifting up your needle, your presser foot, using the presser foot lift, you push the thread to the back, and then you drop the presser foot. So this right here is called the stitch regulator. This is the stitch regulator. The stitch regulator regulates the length of the stitch. It can make the stitch longer, it can make the stitch shorter, it can make the stitch tighter or loose, right? Now, I've moved my stitch regulator down to the end right here. At the end right here, the stitches are usually longer and loose. Such stitches are called running stitches, and they are very temporary. They are not permanent stitches. They can easily break. As you lift your presser foot upwards, the stitch gets tighter. As we keep going higher and higher, the stitch gets tighter. Once we get to this part here, once we get to this line here, our foot dog will begin to roll in reverse. So from this point here, the stitch regulator going upward is loose, and then coming downwards is tight. Then from this point here, coming downwards is loose, and going upwards is tight. So to make a basic permanent stitch, you place your stitch regulator. You place your stitch regulator between number 10 and number 7. That would give you a basic permanent stitch. Not too tight and not too loose. Just okay to sew your garments. If you want to make gathers or temporary stitch, like I said, you push the stitch regulator to the end, like that. So this is the stitch regulator, and it regulates the length or tightness of the stitch. Now, this is the bobbin winding area. So I said earlier on that I was going to show you how to fill your bobbin. So using the bobbin winding area, if yours still works, because some machines are so old that the bobbin winding area doesn't work anymore. To do this, we'll simply pull our thread like that, the thread that is on the spool pin, and then we will wind it round the reeler, like so. Wind it, then with the thread facing upwards, or not coming from down like that, they're coming from up like this, right? You insert the bobbin in there, and then you press this downwards. As soon as you do that, you begin to feel your bobbin. I'm sorry, mine doesn't work. Well, but if it works, while paddling, this would be rotating on its own, and the bobbin would be getting filled, right? Alright, so I'm about to make a stitch. So like I said, after passing your thread through the different channels where you ought to pass your thread, you would have to pick the thread that is in the shuttle chamber. So to do so, like I said, you move your flywheel until the needle enters into the needle hole via the needle plate, and then comes out with the loop of thread like so, which is the bobbin thread. So I use 2 different colors of thread, so you can easily differentiate which is which. The orange thread is the thread that is flowing from the spool pin up there, and then the red thread is the bobbin thread. So you will pass this thread in between the presser foot towards the back. You insert your fabric in like that, and then you will drop your presser foot down So the presser foot firmly holds the fabric in place. Now, like I said, the flywheel is what sets the machine in motion. So to begin to sew, you will turn the flywheel towards you. While doing so, the paddle is going up and down, and then you continue making beautiful stitches like so. So there you have it. I've made a stitch. This is the stitch that is coming from the top, which is the orange thread, and then the stitch that is being formed by the bobbin underneath, right? And as you can see, at the beginning of the stitch, I didn't make a knot, which means that this thread can easily rip, just as you can see. If anything pulls on it, it would cut, and then my stitches would begin to loosen, just as you can see. So this means that at the beginning of your sewing and at the end of your sewing, you should always make a knot. So how do you do this? You place your fabric in, drop your presser foot. Now, to make a knot, for our manual butterfly machine that doesn't have a reverse button, we use the stitch regulator. So I'll begin stitching forward, 1, 2. I've made 2 stitches forward. Then I'll move this to the reverse. Like, remember I said that the line here marks the beginning of the reverse. So I'll move it away from that line a bit upwards, and also make 2 stitches forward, backward, 1, 2. When that is done, I return back to return the stitch regulator downwards towards 10 and 7, and then I continue stitching forward. Now I'm about to end my stitch. Same thing, I will do a stitch forward, 1, 2 stitches forward, and then take this to the reverse position and reverse backward, 1, 2, and then coming back forward, I end my stitch. So that way I've been able to make a knot at the beginning and also at the end of my sewing. So this way my threads can rip easily. If anything pulls on it, it will rather cut, but it will not affect or loosen the stitch. So you need to keep practicing this. You need to keep practicing making your stitch forward, making your stitch backward, making a knot stitch until you can do it in your sleep. So I want to tell you a bit about servicing your machine, the little servicing you can do, which is greasing or oiling your machine. If you use a butterfly machine like this, there are several holes on the machine. There are 2 holes up here at the arm of the machine, right, where you can pass oil into. There are several holes down here also. So you also pass some oil through there. There are some other holes here. So you just check out for holes on your machine like that, and then you pass your oil through those holes to oil your machine. Come down to the foot, all the bolts and joints, where you have bolts and joints like so, you also keep them greased. Come down to the paddle, keep all the bolts and joints greased as well, and that is basically it. Keep your machine clean, keep it dusted,